We are back with another episode of the Ramp Careers Daily Update. Per usual, my guest today is Manoj, my co-founder. Manoj, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Danny. I see we've coordinated our colors. We both have some form of blue.
Yeah, we got the blue and we got the hoodies going.
If you want to be tech forward, you got to wear a hoodie.
I just went through my closet and realized all my hoodies are from like 2012, the ones that I wore way back in the day at Groupon. So I need an upgrade. I'm going to invest in some athleisure so that I can continue working in comfort from home.
You're going to graduate from your hoodies saying Old Navy to them saying maybe Lululemon or something else.
There you go. That's exactly right. So we want to jump into our topic today, which is help. I don't like sales. What should I do? But first, some news of the day. Manoj, a CNBC article just came out today about Bill Gates saying that he was so jealous of genius Steve Jobs. He said Jobs was a genius and there's no chance in hell any of this stuff happens without him. I mean, Apple was on its way to die before Jobs returned. Bill Gates was jealous of Steve Jobs. I had no idea.
It's incredible. It's amazing when you have someone that's as accomplished as Bill Gates speak highly of somebody else. It shows that A, that Bill Gates seems to be humble himself for him to look up to somebody else, and B, I think it really shines the light on Steve Jobs' brilliance. Man, Apple's products have and continue to be beautiful and amazing. They've really created and defined a new category of what hardware should be. So all credit to that. I'm jealous of both of them. I'll join the Let Me Be Jealous of Them club, but that's incredible news.
Yeah, crazy. Two icons. Obviously, their stories are somewhat intertwined. They grew up super competitive. Their companies were always competitive, and now Gates looking back on his life saying that he was jealous of. I wonder, 20 years ago, this article never would have.
Probably not. What do you think of Elon Musk? I mean, I feel like it's the trifecta of notable business leaders. All three of them have very different philosophies, and they've all been very successful in their own right. What are your thoughts on Musk?
Yeah, I love Musk. I think he's a lunatic, obviously, and he trolls not only the media but the stock market. But having a person like that, an innovator, somebody who thinks extremely large and can put his ideas into action in a way that is just so enlightening and innovative, I think you got to root for somebody like that. There's too many haters out there, and he's doing so many great things for the world, giving a lot of people hope. Don't just mean financially. I mean, with the products he's coming out with, he's tackling massive problems like transportation and clean energy and space travel. Like, these are crazy cool things that I think are good for the world.
I agree. But down to a little more of a micro level, our topic for today, I'm
Yep.
not sure if you've ever felt this way in your professional career, but I certainly have a couple of times where I'm like, oh shit, this gig is not for me, or this profession is not for me. I think this is something that happens to a lot of people, but something that's not certainly discussed enough. But I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts and pick your brain. What would you do? What have you done? Or what advice would you give to someone that has graduated from college, maybe has a year's worth of experience, maybe they don't, excited about a career in sales, has a perspective on what it is, and then 4, 5, 6 months into it realizes, crap, I hate this. This is not for me. What do I do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I faced that a few times in my career, both in terms of the specific job that I was working and in terms of maybe the career choice that I was working. I think the first time I faced that was I took an investment banking internship going into my senior year of college, where I was sold this package where I was thinking it'd be this glitzy job. You'd wear a suit, you're working with high profile finance folk. And really what I got was I got to sit in a cubicle and make PowerPoint decks from start of day until end of day, mostly coming at the very end of day in a blitz-like fashion, updating slides so that they were perfect, no mistakes, printing at the time, printing slide deck after slide deck after slide deck to make sure that people who were going to read them had access to them. That was just monotonous, tedious, and I realized really quickly that wasn't for me. And the next time I faced that was, right after school, I took a few months to figure out what I actually wanted to do. Before I got my opportunity at Groupon, worked as a law clerk, and I was actually taking the LSAT. And I thought, hey, maybe law is for me. Really what law was for me was a way to appease my parents, to show them that I was actually doing something after college and not wasting my Michigan Business School education. I realized very quickly that was just a bad fit. It was mind-numbing work for me, and every day I would go in and just think like, I just couldn't picture myself doing it, and it was it just felt so wrong. And that was time to rip the cord on that. But for salespeople, that's an interesting one because sales, especially in the beginning of your career, it is hard. It's a grind. You are competitive with not just yourself, but with your entire team. And if you're not used to that environment, it can really wear on your mental health and it can wear on your psyche a bit. So what you should do in that circumstance is separate yourself for a bit and think about the inputs and the output. The inputs being your personality, the inputs being your effort level, the inputs being your emotional state to some extent, your attitude, and the outputs, it really the results that you're getting and the way that sales makes you feel, not just in terms of execution, but the team environment and the folks around you. I would think through those things. And I think, and we were talking about this before, but a framework you can use here is really a 4-step process. So 1, am I not liking sales because I'm doing something wrong? 2, if it's a no, am I not liking it because of my current team or current company? If that's still a no, then I think you should really assess skills, personality, where you fit maybe with the politicals within the professional spectrum. And then 4, if it's really that dire, then you can start to look at alternative careers. So keep that framework, keep that process in your mind as you're assessing, but we can break down all 4 of those. So Manoj, am I not liking it because I'm doing something wrong? What does that look like? And how do I know if it's I'm doing something wrong or if it's just the wrong career choice?
Yeah, and I think that's a good first place to start, right? Where you just look inwards and you say, "Am I not liking something? Not because of the path that I took, but is the fault with me, right?" And it's a difficult question to ask, especially when you feel like you're trapped in a profession or if you're trapped in a job that you don't like. But it's an important question to ask. And I say that because oftentimes you may not like something that you're doing because you're not seeing results. There's no achievement motivation, right? Where day in and day out, you just don't get positive feedback. You don't see the results that you expect to see or you want to see. And that's likely why you're not liking what you're doing, right? Typically, there might be some jobs where just the process in and of itself sucks and you really don't care. You might get spectacular outcomes, but you may not want to do the job anyways because you really hate the process. But entry level, if especially in sales development, business development, if this is your first job, you're likely gauging that based on the results or the lack thereof, right? So first question to ask is it something that I'm doing, right? If I'm not doing the right thing, or if I'm not following the right process, if I'm not working the right number of hours, if it's me that's causing a bad outcome, then at least you have a choice to control it or change it. You may still choose to say, okay, way too many hours. I don't want this. I only want something that's 6 hours of work a day. And that's okay. I think you should be free to make decisions like that, but it's important to kind of start there, right? And say, if it's me, then let me try and tweak what I do to see if I achieve better results. And maybe if I see better results, I might like it, right? So that's a good place to start. If we go through the process and realize, okay, I'm doing everything I can, I'm still not liking it, then the second question, which I think is an interesting question, especially as an entry level sales or BD professional, is, am I not liking it because of my team or because of my company?
So
a bit tricky.
Question there is happy to answer. First is, how do I know if it's my team or my current company? And I think what you should look for, and we alluded to this in a previous session, is 1, do I feel supported by my teammates? And that's really subjective. So I think getting some guidance from folks that you trust and some mentors and your own personal executive committee, whether that's your parents, whether that's your friends, whether that's folks that are in your network that maybe have gone through sales a bit and have been in sales for a bit longer. I think that's a good place to start and really stress test the management team and the folks around you if they are actually supportive. 2, I think some companies just aren't meant to last. You have to do a good amount of research on your own to figure out if yours is. I wouldn't just rip the cord if you're feeling this sort of way, given that it's not something that is actually detrimental, something like a toxic workplace. I think you need to assess the longevity of the company. And again, I would seek outside help there. I would seek help from folks that you trust in tech or whatever arena you're working in. I would look to folks potentially in your network, potentially your parents, potentially people you trust who have gone through some sort of sales position or work in some sort of similar career as you. And then at the end of the day, what I would do is I would set up a bit of a framework for yourself with all of the important factors that you look for in a company. And I would rank them 1 through 10 on all of these factors. So you come out with somewhat of an average. And before you go about doing that, just set a score in your mind where it's like, if this company is below the total average score, the total score, it's a no for me. And if it's above, then yes, it's still worth it. I would try to just make it as objective as possible. So you're not just going based on gut feeling and instinct and potentially doing something that's a little premature despite how well you're doing or how much effort you're putting into the company. So let's say, Manoj, it's a no, I'm not doing something wrong, I'm working my butt off. It's a no, the team and the company are good. Then what? Then I need to assess my skills. Like, does my personality and my skill set actually match sales? Like, how does one do that?
Yeah, I think you can at this point, run through what I call a skills audit, right? Because you have some basis to measure what you think you're naturally good at, what you think you're willing and able to learn to fill the gaps of what you're not good at, and how much time and effort are you willing to put into part two of the equation, which is things that you need to learn, right? Because clearly, it looks like at this point your natural abilities at least don't seem to be very aligned with a career in sales. And so now you're asking yourself, well, my natural abilities don't align. I could probably pick up the skills, but I'm just not interested in doing it, which is completely okay. By the way, I think that's a fine decision to make. At that point, I think you just have to audit it and say, okay, well, I know that these are the set of skills that I don't naturally have, but I need to get, but I'm not interested in getting them. And so let me take a stock of either the skills that I already have or other set of skills that I'm willing to gamble, and then look at what other pathways I can follow. For example, maybe it's account management for me. Maybe it's, customer success for me. I like solving people's problems, but I don't want to ask them for money. Or I don't really like the rush or the euphoria that you get in chasing a prospect. I don't like cold calling. It makes me nervous. It's not part of my personality. I think these are types of, which by the way, I think all of those can be learned if you're not, naturally good at it. So anyone that's listening to this, I don't believe that everyone has to be a born salesperson, especially for early career sales professionals. I think a lot of it is most certainly taught. But with that said, that's what I'd go through is a true candid skills audit. And if you're highly analytical and you want to be behind the scenes and you don't want to be customer facing at all, completely fine. There's roles in data, there's roles in product that you can take that help you utilize skills and interests that you have. But that's something that I'll go through. And it's similar to like point two, right, where you suggested ask others around you. Oftentimes there might be your mentors, your friends, even your family that may have a pulse on what they think you're good at. And it's good to get an objective assessment and say, hey, do you think that these are skills that I'm good at? And then comes to point four, right? Once you take stock of it, assessing other careers. I know I threw a few at you, right? There's this customer success, customer support roles. There's roles in data and product. Man, I mean, I've had folks that have just gone back to grad school and have gone into careers in teaching. I've had folks that went into a coding boot camp and now are on the product side. I mean, the world's your oyster. There's so much you can do. Have you seen that transition where someone that you thought was a smart, capable person didn't end up working in sales for various reasons? Even though they could have made a good salesperson, they decided not to, but picked another career path. What else can you think of beyond the ones that I've kind of thrown out?
To answer your question directly, yes, I've seen folks successfully transition from that entry-level sales position into something a little bit more fitting with their personality, be it a product role, a business role that's not related to sales at all, something like finance or potentially operations, or role within sales or the sales realm like customer success, account management, support to some extent, potentially marketing. So I've seen that successful transition. There's no harm, no foul there. I think once you've got that skills assessment, your personal skills assessment ready to rock, what I would do is try to find positions, try to find roles, try to find arenas that you think could fit your personality. And it may be, hey, look, I'm done with tech. I'm looking to finance. I'm done with tech. I'm looking to work at a nonprofit. That could be the answer. No problem there. You're going to gain skills from working in a sales job, regardless of how long you stay in it, regardless of where you end up after. But that's such a personal decision. I think at the end of the day, you should stick with something until you've given it enough of an opportunity to really, really fail or really, really start to see early signs of success or even success. That's tough. There's a lot of pain potentially to go through something and fail, but at least you'll know that about yourself and you won't have any questions to be left unanswered. I do want to say that your own happiness and your own mental health are critically important throughout this entire process. So if you do feel like the role or the company or anything is impacting the way you think about your own life or yourself, yeah, it may just be time to cut the cord and find a different position. And with that in mind, there's always going to be another opportunity. There's always other positions, other arenas, other careers for you to choose from. I'm not sure if I give any specifics there. I hate to direct folks one way or the other because it is such a personal decision, but I would say find something where your personality aligns more directly and you will start to thrive. I think when you're happy at work, when you're happy doing what you're doing, it's so much easier and more fun and enjoyable, even on the hard days when you're trying to move mountains to just get some basic stuff done.
No, I agree. I think all of those are very good points. And, these days there's so much opportunity out there. I think it's a lot more acceptable today to test and experiment. I'd say, 15 years ago or so, people wouldn't experiment as much. There was something to be said about staying at a place and sticking it out for 6, 7, 8, 9 years and kind of taking it from there. However, things are changing, and I feel like there's so much innovation and so much early stage stuff happening that oftentimes you may choose to move for reasons that are outside your control. You may not meet your targets because it was an early stage company and the targets set were completely out of whack, right? And so there's a bit of a survivorship bias because you do see some folks stick it out at a startup for 5, 6 years, and it's because, hey, you've just landed at a startup that, all things equal, seem to have product market fit, perfect recipe aligned. But statistically, the odds are stacked against you. Your company's more likely to fail than not, right? And so with that framework in mind, and I see a lot of inside sales happening at these fast growing early stage companies. And to me, it's in line with the spirit of experimenting and in line with the spirit of innovating. Because on the one hand, you can't say, hey, businesses, corporate America, entrepreneurship, startup, we love that you experiment, we love that you innovate. But then on the other hand, look at the talent that's really fueling these businesses and then say, hey, you can't experiment, you can't innovate. How come you were only there for 2 years? It cuts both ways, right? Because you can't have one without the other. And so I think that, of course, people have to stick it out. Of course, you have to give yourself reasonable opportunity to succeed. But at the end of the day, I do think that human beings are, rational when it comes to their own general well-being. And people generally make the best decision based on information that they have at any given point of time. And so I would drink my own Kool-Aid. And these are the questions that I ask myself, right? And then balance that up against opportunity cost. That's the one piece that we haven't discussed this, right? Because underpinning all of this is, again, the pragmatic realities of life. What encumbrances do you have? Do you need the money? Do you have other obligations that's going to offset it? So even after you go through this 4-step process, it's a bit of balancing. So yeah, I think that's our suggestion. And our inboxes are always open. Anyone can shoot us a message on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to. I'm sure you as well. Talk with any entry-level sales or business development professional that is feeling like this is not a fit for you. I think that's okay. There's other things that you can do. Life is way too short, and people are capable in their own right.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to leave it. More of a philosophical way to end it. And of course, yes, my LinkedIn is always open. My inbox is always open. We'll paste our contact information in the comment section so you're able to reach out to us anytime. For Manoj, I'm Danny, and this has been another Ramped Careers Daily Update. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Bye, Danny.
Bye.